All right. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast, weekly real estate tip. And Tim here to talk to you about the housing market here in 2023. What's going on at a big picture? A lot of shifts, a lot of changes that are taking place, some areas more so than others. But for most of us, we are experiencing some big shifts, some big changes. And what these are, potentially where the market is headed, and most importantly, what to do to adapt to these changing times to ensure that we don't just survive during these changing markets, but then we go out there and thrive, kick ass, make sure our goals are met. One thing that's really important to understand and always know, and I know if you're a long-term listener of this podcast, you've heard me say this many times, but it's that approach that there is no such thing as a good market or a bad market. It's that the market is always good for somebody. And as long as we know how to read the markets, as long as we know how to pivot, shift, and adapt accordingly, we got to be like water, man. We got to be able to flow with the different changes, flow with the different markets. Because look, disruptions and market changes, there can be a lot of different things that bring them about. We can go through an overall shift and change, like from a seller's market to a buyer's market, like a lot of us are experiencing. You can have, booms, busts, crashes, and everything in between there. But then we can also have shifts just in the way that business is done, whether it's technology and so forth. So, it's really, really important to be able to have that ability to read markets, to read what's taking place, and to be able to adapt and shift and pivot accordingly to ensure that you thrive. A lot of conversations that I'm having with realtors right now, team leaders and broker owners as well, when they're reaching out about interest in my coaching program and so forth, I'm having conversations. A lot of things that I'm hearing when I'm asking about goals, and a constant thing is, oh, well, I just want to make consistent good income. And I'm like, look, consistent income month over month is habitual. That means, do you have the right habits to be able to, that you're applying, taking the right actions on a day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, because if you don't, and you're inconsistent with those, daily rituals, daily habits when it comes to your real estate business, yeah, then you'll have those month over month roller coasters. But when it comes to year over year consistent, good, steady growth in your income, that really boils down to your ability. Of course, you got to have the consistent habits, right? Like all those things. And we're not here to talk about those necessarily today, but you got to have the ability to be able to read the markets. And again, understanding at a high and deep level that there is no such thing as a good market, no such thing as a bad market. The market is always good for somebody. So we need to be able to identify whom the current market is good for and pivot and shift our strategies and so forth to whom it's good for. All right, so let's first get into what we're seeing in the market. And then I'm going to go through, again, I got 4 different steps here to help you guys get dialed in to ensure that you're adapting correctly. I'm even going to get in and show you some of my data trackers. I know a lot of you listen to this via audio, via what is iTunes or Apple Podcasts or, wherever we're kind of everywhere podcasts are available, Spotify, everywhere else. So I'll do my best to explain the tracker that I'm going through. But if you're here watching this on YouTube, you're going to see me go through this and so forth. All right. So if we look at what's going on right now, there's a couple, trends that we're all seeing taking place right now. When I say we all seeing, I don't have this, this data point I'm giving you isn't like a track data point. This is just me pulling this out of my ass. This seems to be about my best guess with conversations that I'm having, but it seems about 10% of the people that I'm talking to, meaning realtors that I'm talking to, are in markets that are still experiencing a seller's market. They're still experiencing multiple offers, bidding wars. They're, it's still like 2020, 2021, early 2022 in their markets. Then about 90% or so of those conversations that I'm having, are experiencing big shifts from a seller's market to a buyer's market. No more multiple offers, days on market is racking up, inventory is racking up, prices are starting to decline. And then within those conversations, every market is different. And this is where, and we were going to talk about this here today too, is making sure that you know your market. So often when we listen to mainstream media, and so forth, we're hearing nationwide stats. And I'm going to talk to you about a lot of nationwide stuff too here, but then I'm also going to get into what I'm studying with my market so you can see those and, so forth. But, real estate is so hyper local. What happens here in Phoenix, Arizona may not happen where you're at in your market, with the severity of it and so forth. My market happens to be one of the fastest, we're a historic boom and bust market, man. And our market right now is unwinding fast and we're getting just kind of, when I say, hit hard in a bad way, again, I mean, it's, for sellers, yeah, versus if you sold today versus a year ago, but it's it's the best time that we've seen for buyers in the last 3+ years, best time that we've seen for upsizers in about a decade now. So, there's always people that the market's good for, always people that the market's not good for. All right. So the first thing that I want to get into though, before I get into some of just what's going on at a high level with real estate and the economy, that I believe is really important to just note and understand when it comes to making strategic decisions in our business is understanding confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is something that happens to human beings, to most of us, and it happens to us sometimes on a subconscious level where we're not aware of it, which means that we are looking for evidence. We are looking for data points, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and a lot of people it's subconscious, but they're looking for evidence to support a claim that they hope to believe to be true, that they want to believe to be true, hope to be believed to be true. And when you have those, so I guess where I'm going with this is, if you're one that is sitting here saying, oh, well, the market is not going to crash, the real estate market's not going to crash, I know it's not going to crash, or I want to believe it's not going to crash, or I want to believe it's not going to get ugly with the real estate market and the overall economy, well, you're going to be then seeking evidence to go out there and support those claims, or vice versa. Right? If you want to believe that the market is going to crash, then you can go out there and either way, you can go out there and always, this is where confirmation bias comes into play, right? We can go out there and find, data points and different data that backs up, what those belief systems that we want to believe are. Now, when it comes to business, I'm not talking about personal beliefs here, but when it comes to business, it's important, at least I have found, it's important to make sure that confirmation bias isn't taking place in our lives, right? To be a great researcher and to go out there and it's just seeking to understand. It's like, for me, like, I'm not attached to either. The market's going to do what the market's going to do. It's beyond my control. Now, somebody, that might be passionate about, oh, the market's not going to crash. They might come at me and passionately try to debate me, with some of the things I'm about to say here on this podcast. But to me, it's like, and I'm open to all those debates because I don't attach to one side or the other. I'm just looking for the right data so then I can go out there and make decisions based on what's going on in the market. Because again, the markets are more powerful than, like, I don't have the power to go out there and impact the real estate market. I might have the power to go out there and have a positive impact on my clients' lives and make it a great experience. And I can go out there and impact what's in my bank account and so forth. But when it comes to the overall market, it's like, dude, we don't have that kind of power. So I have no control over it. So why would I attach to one ideology or the other? It's going to be what it's going to be. But when we remove that confirmation bias and we're not having one belief system that we're hoping to, that we're just really attaching to, then it allows us to see the data for what it is and go out there and adapt accordingly and so forth. Because this is something that I saw. A lot of you guys know, if you've been watching the show for a long time, I mean, I've been in this game for almost 2 decades now, and I've experienced now the 2 biggest real estate bubbles to exist in the United States. Before the 2020, 2021, early 2022 bubble, the biggest bubble that we had seen was, the kind of 04, 05 bubble, right? And it started to unwind in late 05, depending on where you're at in your market. But that was a massive bubble. And then it was followed by a massive crash. It's kind of physics. What goes up must come down. Not saying that just because we experience a bubble even greater than that time that it's going to crash, right? There's not all downturns are the same, not all act the same. There's different reasons, different causes, different things with this, but we are just coming out of the biggest all asset class bubble of all time in recorded history, and real estate is thrown in that mix. So I've been through the biggest bubbles, but I've also been through the biggest real estate market crash in recorded history as well here in the United States. And here's the thing. In 2005, 2006, even, in 2007, people started to kind of wake up, at least in my market, of like, oh crap, this thing is seeming pretty severe. And maybe I was wrong, but especially in late 05, early 06, which is kind of where we're at least in my market, for when we look at from when the market peaked in 2022, and so forth. I was hearing the same shit I'm hearing now today from most in our industry, because again, a lot of them attach to confirmation bias. They don't want to believe it, because I mean, how I can tell somebody is suffering from confirmation bias if they're like, oh, there's no way the market's going to crash, right? Versus, hey, I don't know, right? Because the honest answer is, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. You don't have a crystal ball. Who the hell knows? There's so many underlying things that we'll get into that will go. But I heard the same shit back then, oh, well, there's so much equity, all this crap, right? And of course, there's different things going on. And I'm sure some of you are going to throw those in the comments about, subprime loans and all of that stuff. Well, look, today, and what we've experienced the last couple of years, we haven't seen the subprime loans issue that we saw in the housing market back in 05 and 06 and 04 and before the last crash. But what we've seen now is a repeat of the subprime predatory kind of dangerous lending practices in the auto industry. Because what I know is market crashes, corrections, and just so we're clear on verbiage here, a crash is just a correction beyond 20%. So whether you want to call it a correction, crash, whatever, it's just a downturn, right? But those happen because of hardships, right? Especially in the real estate space, you get a percentage of people or a percentage of homeowners that a large enough percentage of them that experience enough hardships where then they're in a position where they have to go out there and liquidate, have to go out there and sell, because real estate is one of these that prices are set on the fringe minorities, like meaning. And what I mean by that is, your house, your home value, or your client's home value, is today. That's based on what was the sell of their neighbor's house. Right? Like it's the most recent sell that kind of dictates those prices. So if you look at, and I don't have the exact data in front of me, but if you look at, the great financial crisis, what was it, roughly about 18 million distressed properties that were sold that led to, let's just say, significant drops in valuations in real estate. But then what, you have about 140 million single family attached units, so when you look at that, it's like, okay, well, 122 million didn't foreclose, 122 million were fine. Right. But those 18 million, when you do the math on that, again, it's a small minority. It's not the majority that then caused everything else to go out there and crash. So it doesn't take, you get 10 to 15%. That's all it takes. 10 to 15% of homeowners that are in a tough time, that are forced to go out there and sell, and liquidate. And depending on where the market's trending, they might have to sell at a discounted price, fire set, whatever, that keeps driving those markets lower and lower and lower. So the first thing, again, confirmation bias, make sure that you don't. And personally, I apply this to all aspects of life, whether it be health, whether it be whatever, because dude, like, even when it comes to science, like, that's just proven wrong. It's like, there's things that, in the personal training or in the health and fitness industry that were believed to be as scientific fact, a decade ago, have now been disproven. So for me, I'm not going to attach to any of these ideologies. Okay, so now let's jump into what we're seeing right now. The biggest thing that we're seeing right now, and when I say this, I mean is a whole, at least all over North America. And again, when I say not all markets might be subject to this, but the vast majority are, at least as of right now. But as a whole, and these are just, nationwide stats, in 2022, we just experienced the biggest year-over-year decline in transaction volume in history, right? So in recorded history, when it comes to real estate, in 2022, we had the biggest transaction volume fall off, transaction volume decline. Nationwide, that equated to 34.3%. I'm going to talk to you about how to adjust for this, and when I get into the four things of, how to go out there and adapt, pivot, and change, so you can go out there and crush it. But this is a really important thing to understand for. You got to make sure that you note this, that you understand this, and that you hedge and adjust accordingly in your business for it, because otherwise it's going to bite you in the ass and it's going to hurt you, right? So, and I'll get into that when I get into these four steps. So, 34.3, what is that number? What does that signify? That means that 34.3% of less people are willing and or able to transact right now in this given climate, or at least in 2022, and it hasn't gotten better, right? So it's only seems to be getting worse, not better, right? So when you got 34.3 less people willing or able to go out there and transact in this given market, okay, what impact is it going to have? Now that doesn't mean price valuation. That doesn't mean that markets, nationwide real estate prices came down 34.3%. That just means there's 34.3 less transactions that took place year over year. That year over year decline, which was the largest in recorded history, right? So it's the first time that I've experienced this to this volume in my 18 years of doing this. First time any of us have experienced this. All right, so then KB Homes, which is the sixth largest home builder in the United States, we look at quarter four of 2022. Now, why am I talking about 2022 stats? And I'll start talking about some here going into 2023 as well. But, real estate data is usually 30 to 60 days behind. This is the most accurate data, but these trends are continuing. It hasn't corrected. If anything, it's just getting worse right now. So KB Homes, sixth largest home builder in the United States, for quarter four, reported a 68% cancellation rate. Right. So that means 68% of buyers that were under contract with KB Homes nationwide, they had a 68% cancellation rate of those contracts in quarter four of 2022. And that's, again, these are, nationwide for this particular nationwide builder. Now when you look at that, that doesn't mean that, it's not like they were at 0% cancellations before. It was something like around 13% is what they, kind of historically were averaging. I'm trying to go off memory on that. If you fact check that, it could be slightly off, but roughly, that's about a 55% increase of their typical cancellation rate, right? Pretty damn significant, right? All right, so then we just, in the latest GDP data, the latest GDP report issued by the Feds indicates the largest decline in real disposable personal income since the Great Depression. So that just means people today have less money left over after they pay their essentials. Real disposable income, that is income that's left over after you pay your mortgage payment, after you pay your essentials. That's money that you can go out there and buy shit, invest for the economy, and go on vacations and do other things. We just got reported. So I think that this goes back to the worst since 1932, but it's during the Great Depression, right? So the largest decline that we've had on this report since the Great Depression. So it just means, and look at the environment, like you guys all feel it. Like, dude, the administration or the Fed can come out to us and tell us CPI is getting better. Right? Okay, well, they can give us those reports. They got their own way to plug in data reports, plug in, that information. I think that, if you're somebody that follows data that's in the statistics, you also know and understand that they can be kind of skewed to portray, a different narrative than maybe the truth, right? And I'm not saying that they're doing that or not. There's a lot of basket of goods that get tossed in there, and there might be certain things in that basket of goods that are going down in price. But when it comes to life necessities, things are going up. Just when you go to the grocery store, I'm sure you're feeling it. When you go out to eat, I'm sure you're feeling it. When you're filling up maybe gas is down a little bit. My prediction is that's temporary. Maybe not. I don't know. But a lot of that has been created because of the exhaustion of our strategic petroleum reserves, that can't last forever. So what happens when we get to the point that that's exhausted, and now we have to, that's manipulation in the gas markets, right? The oil market. So, what is true market cost today? Right? That's yet to be seen. We'll see on that. But where I'm going here is, people have less and less money to go out there and invest in the economy and to go out there and buy shit. So this means somebody else's spending is somebody else's income. Right. So just like, dude, we're all tied to the real, at least most of you that are watching this or listening to this, this podcast is for, the real estate industry, for realtors, team leaders, and broker owners. Right. So when you got less people that have less money to go out there and buy real estate, that's less commissions that you're making. That's less income that you're making. Now, this doesn't have to be the case, but industry as a whole, that's less money overall that's taking place in our industry. And that's going to impact some people. Right. So when people have less disposable income, they're going to buy less shit. Right. And that's going to impact and carry over into more layoffs, more job losses, and so forth. I mean, look at Amazon. In 2022, Amazon was the first company in history to lose over $1 trillion in valuation in 1 year. Right. So like, how does that happen? It's because people's disposable income is falling off of a cliff, so they're not buying all this stupid shit on Amazon, right? So now I like Amazon. Like, I buy stuff off Amazon, buy my books off there, supplements off there. So I'm not a hater of Amazon. I'm just talking about what this means. So this is an indicator that, to me at least, the way that I read this and the way that I take this in is that, okay, this transaction volume decline that we're experiencing is either going to stay the same or get worse. But then, from there, we're going to continue to see more and more layoffs, less GDP growth, less money in the economy, just more contraction, right? Which is going to impact the real estate market. Now, you might say that's going to negatively impact the real estate market. I don't look at it that way, right? Because again, the market's always good for somebody. When the market comes down, it's like, dude, 2020, the mainstream media says, oh, 2021, 2020, oh, the real estate market was hot. It was such an amazing market. Who was it amazing for? A home seller. Sucked for buyers. Sucked for, maybe if you're a flipper, it was okay, but sucked for buy and hold investors. Sucked for a lot of people, right? So the market's always good, right? So I don't look at this as, oh, it's bad for the markets. No, dude, it just means that the prices are going to come down. It's going to be better for buyers. It's going to be better for investors. It's going to be better for, it's going to be better for a subset of people, and it's going to be worse for a subset of people. This is why you got to be able to read the markets and adjust accordingly inside your business. All right. So ADP just reported the slowest job growth in 2 years. This report just came out. Now, when we look at this, though, one thing that's really important is when you look at the payroll reports that we get told, right, like that the Fed goes off of and so forth, and what ADP is reporting here. Now, these are just total payrolls, right? So what we're seeing right now in the economy is a lot of these higher kind of managerial positions, executive positions, a lot of layoffs. There's a shit ton, insane amount of layoffs taking place right now, but they're in the higher income earner positions. So those people are, getting laid off from those jobs. Well, they might have to go get 3 part-time jobs, or maybe they get 1 full-time job and then 2 part-time jobs, or whatever that may be, to subsidize that income and to be able to still pay their bills. Right? Well, if I have 1 job that I've lost, and now I go get 3 part-time jobs, that shows us 3 payrolls, not 1. So they, these payroll reports report that as job growth when it's not truly job growth. If you look at the household survey job reports versus the payroll reports for 2020, for 2022, there's about a 2 million job discrepancy when you look at those, or above 2 million job discrepancy. So layoffs are happening, they are taking place, and they are, again, for things that we already talked about here, they're going to continue to accelerate. At least that is what the data is telling me. It's yet to be seen. We'll see where this goes. All right. So in addition to that, we got inflation issues, which we already talked about. So and really inflation issues that we're seeing right now are on necessities. Like there might be other sectors where things are coming down. But when it comes to necessities, food, your utility bills, right, property taxes, all of that stuff, like those are continuing to go up. We got this ongoing war in Russia and Ukraine, and it just seems to be getting worse. And but that impacts a lot of commodities, impacts a lot of other things. So what is the impact of that during these crazy times that we're already in? So we got a high interest rate environment. So and not just in obviously mortgages, but altogether a high interest rate environment. But we got just look at mortgages, right? So and they've been staying a little bit more subtle, right? When I say subtle, I mean that's a bad word, stable, right? They've been kind of, for a while there, we're thinking, oh shit, they're gonna go, well beyond 7, maybe hit that 8 mark, whatever. And they've been kind of floating in the low 6s, but they've been staying steady at that. And you look at Goldman Sachs right now, you look at Moody's, they're predicting interest rates will stay around that, hover right around 6% for the next couple of years. I don't know what's going to happen, because what we're seeing right now is a lot of manipulation between the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve that are manipulating and doing some crazy shit behind the scenes, because they don't have to tell us what they're doing. They don't have to report what they're doing to us. And this shit can be, kind of off the books, if you will, when it comes to yield curve control, that's, artificially, it appears to be keeping interest rates lower than what if they just let the markets do what the market's going to do. My guess is interest rates would be higher today. So I don't know, like, how long can this manipulation take place? Just like, when we had historic low interest rates in 2020, 2021, and very early of 2022. Why was that? Because you had the Federal Reserve buying $90 billion a month of mortgage-backed securities. That is market manipulation. That is not true. That's not setting, that's not true market stability. That's not the market setting, market value, right? That is outside influences that are not natural to markets, manipulating the markets. So then they drive, it creates a result that's unnatural, right? Well, all of that ended early 2022. And that's why we started seeing interest rates, go up about 0.5% a month until they, started to stabilize, and we saw kind of more market value. So my guess is, what we saw, when we were getting around that 7s and so forth, that was more market value right now, with that. So we'll see. Again, I don't know where this is going, but as of right now, and I don't see, when it comes to overall interest rates, when you look at what the Fed is doing, the Federal Reserve is doing, the Federal Reserve continues to hike. Yeah, they're slow down those hikes, but they're continuing to hike. And with this, ongoing inflation is still 3 times what their target inflation is. So even though the markets want them to pivot and think they're going to pivot, it doesn't appear that's going to be taking place. So we've got a period of continued hikes going on. We don't know how long those are going to continue going on with the Fed overnight rate. But then it's not like they're just going to stop hiking them and then start lowering them. They may do that, but more likely than not, they're probably going to stop hiking them and then keep them at a certain rate for a period of time and just watch and see what takes place. If you look at what took place in the 70s, which is we're kind of in a similar era to what we saw in the 70s and early 80s, right, with that kind of decade of inflation and stagflation, and we're experiencing some similar things. Well, the Fed came in, started increasing rates, then prematurely they thought things were good, they dropped rates. Then boom, a hyperinflation set, and then Volcker came in and had to, do the reversal of that. And Jerome Powell, he makes a lot of references to Volcker, and it sounds like he doesn't want that to happen under his watch. So that's going to increase cost of capital and keep this cost of capital, aka high interest rate environment, high for businesses and for, everybody, right? Credit cards, everything, right? Okay, so we got also this just was reported as well, largest business bankruptcies. So when I say largest, we're talking big business, large business, larger businesses, but we've got larger business bankruptcies now back up to 2010 highs. So then additionally, you got record low savings on consumers, you got record high debt for consumers, and then record high debt on all fronts, government debt, corporate debt. I mean, we've never seen a debt problem that we are experiencing right now in this magnitude on a global scale, which is probably what concerns me the most out of everything, right? So with all that being said, I look at all of that and I'm like, okay, as I said earlier, I'm not here to get issuing fear porn, right? I'm not here saying that these markets are going to crash, severely and be another 2008 or worse than 2008. It could. Now I'm prepping for it, but not because I believe that that's 100% where we're going, right? I just believe in hope for the best, plan for the worst, and if you do that, then it's the best way to go out there and hedge. But what I see this and what I can tell you based on what the data is that we're seeing right now is right now, the average consumer, as well as the country, as well as the globe, we are in a way worse position right now than we were leading into the great financial crisis. So wouldn't surprise me at all if this isn't much more severe, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it's less severe. Like I said, I'm not going to attach to any ideology. I'm just watching this. But what this tells me, though, is for and even when I say for sure, this leads me to believe is that we are probably in for some more pain. Like this isn't going to be a problem that's fixed overnight when it comes to the transaction volume decline, when it comes over to the housing market correction and so forth. Like this isn't something that is like all these data points, everything I just walked through with you shows me that okay, we're probably going to be in this mess for some time, man, whether that's 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. All I know is real estate isn't like the stock market where things can turn on a dime. Real estate's kind of a slow moving thing, and usually it's a lag, right? So usually based on what if you look at like recessionary timeframes and so forth, well, the stock market may have been corrected, the overall economy from a GDP standpoint may have been corrected, while real estate is still going down. Right. It's a lag from those impacts, and then takes a while for that beast to turn around. It's like the Titanic, right? Can't turn around fast when that iceberg's there, and then boom. Okay. So with all that being said, well, what the hell do we go out there and do? Right. So that's where we're at right now, kind of snapshot with the economy, real estate market, and so forth. Well, what do we go out there and do as real estate practitioners, real estate professionals, realtors, team leaders, broker owners? Like, what do we do? All right. So number one is to adjust accordingly for the transaction volume decline. Now, this becomes really, really important. And this is what I'm seeing most go wrong right now on all levels. Doesn't matter if you're a realtor, doesn't matter if you're a team leader or broker owner. This is something we all need to pay attention to right now. So what I recommend is figure out what your transaction volume decline is for your market. So go into the last month that you have of reported data in the housing market. So I'm recording this on February 1st. So you might have January data available. But like what I was doing in January is I was looking at, okay, December 2022, what was the closing volume in December of 2022? And then how did that compare to December of 2021? Right. And just do the math on that, divide that out, right. So is that 30%? Is it 40%? Whatever, so for me in the market that I'm in and that I work, it ended up being 44.9%. So what does that tell me? 44.9% less people are transacting in this market that are willing and or able to transact in this market. So what that shows me is that I need to go out there and adjust my lead flow, my lead volume. So if I'm so just take any lead source that you go after and increase those number of leads by whatever that percentage differential is, and plan on that to get the same result, right? So, okay, if you're converting at 1% with, let's just say Facebook ads, right? Where a lot of people convert at 1% on. Okay, if you're converting at 1 out of 100, and with my market being down, transaction volume down 44.9%, I now need to plan on me closing 1 out of 144.9, right? It just means that you're gonna have to do that, but whatever that differential is, you're gonna have to increase your lead gen, and then simultaneously with that, your lead follow-up, because you have more leads coming in, right, to get the same result. So if I was converting 1 out of 10 at, let's just say, an open house, well, now I plan on, essentially, if I round up, that's 1 out of 15, right? So you go out there and hedge for that. You adjust for that. Now, if you're a team leader, broker owner, you do this on the high level, with that. And that also then comes into like, look, if you're, like I'm telling my team leaders and broker owner coaching clients, like whatever your 2023 recruiting goals were, just double it. if not triple it, but at least double it, because you're going to have a lot of agents producing a lot, closing less deals, going to have more agents dropping out of the marketplace during these tougher climates. Just historically is how it goes and what takes place. So whatever those goals were leading into this, based on your data, just go out there and double those, to hedge yourself for this. So make sure that you are adjusting for that transaction volume decline. Look, do not expect to get the same result today that you did last year, the year before, I mean, we're coming out of the longest bull market in recorded history. Right. So if you haven't been in this business since pre-2012, you haven't really experienced much other than an appreciating seller's market. So you got it. Maybe you've been and I'm talking to a lot of agents. Oh, I've been doing this 10 years. I've been doing this 8 years. And I'm like, okay, well, look, dude, like, don't get arrogant. I've been doing this 18 years. I don't like I said earlier, this transaction volume decline at this severity is something I've never experienced. Right. So I'm not going to sit here and be arrogant to the point of, oh, well, because I've been doing this 18 years and I've been able to grow my real estate business each and every single year for 18 years straight, and each year better and outperform the year before. And just because I've been through booms and busts and worst housing market crash and so forth, I'm not going to allow that to think I know everything. I'm not going to allow that to think that I don't need to adjust and do things differently than I've done things in the past. I'm not going to sit there and think that, every strategy and everything that I do. No, like, I got to be willing to grow, be willing to learn, stay humble, right? Be hungry, be a student, right? Go out there and adjust. And we're going to face shit that we haven't faced before, right? And I'm not saying that we are going to in this moment. I'm not saying that with this market, that this market's going to be different than anything that we've ever experienced. It may, I don't know yet. I'm just saying in life, we're going to have different life events, business and outside of business, that we haven't experienced before. And we got to be able to, not allow ourselves to get arrogant and attach to our old ways, and be able to learn, grow, and expand and pivot and take different action, right? Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? We can't do that. I'll be upfront and honest, man. My team right now, with this transaction volume decline, man, it's been a battle. We're doing well and we're performing well, but man, we're like, and it's tough because it's hard to always remember everything that was going on over an 18-year period. But from, at least from when I say this, like, this is what it feels like, and what I've, that I'm experiencing right now, is I can't think of another time I've had to work harder and been more focused and go out there and do what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm fucking working 7 days a week. I'm grinding each and every day. There's very little time off. It's just go, go, go. And I'm pushing as hard, if not harder, than I've ever had. And that's because I don't want to maintain the same results. I want to grow and I want to expand. And I know that this too shall pass. And I want to be in an amazing position, when this passes. And I understand that certain business seasons, we got to grind harder than other seasons. And it's just the nature of business. I get that. I understand that, but it's like, dude, like, I'm fucking not just me, but all my teammates, we're all having to grind. These are things that we talk about every single week in my real estate team, in our masterminds and our meetings and so forth. And we're adjusting accordingly. And everybody's, we're out there producing deals. And, a lot of my agents are outperforming already this year than what they did last year, and having, we're planning to have another record year this year, right? But it's because we are adjusting for this stuff and we are working our asses off. I know that so often, so many in this industry, I'm guessing this isn't you because you're watching this podcast, Get Shit Done podcast, right? But so many are looking for the fucking easy button. So many are looking for, the magic pill, the easy button, right? And look, there's I've never found a magic pill to exist. I don't know really, if unaware of any easy buttons. There's smarter, more intelligent ways to go out there and act. In better strategies and lesser like, there's ways that can create success with less resistance, with smart strategy. However, there's also, times where it takes having brilliant strategies, smart strategies, and in combination to that, takes working your ass off. I had an agent in my mastermind yesterday. And I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I was just, just being upfront honest. I'm like, look, right now is not a time to be seeking. And they weren't like complaining about this, so I don't want to make it like them sound, because it wasn't that at all. But anyway, the comment that came out of my mouth is, hey, look, right now is not a time to be seeking balance in life. Not saying that you got to sacrifice your health or sacrifice time with your family and your kids. You might have to sacrifice your social life. Right? Like, you just got to make that decision. How bad do I fucking want this thing? How bad do I want to continue in this business? How bad do I want my goals to become a reality? Like, how bad do you want this? Right? And be willing to put in that work to go out there and crush it. Again, guys, like, this too shall not last, right? Like, this too shall pass. It will. But right now, like we are in the thick of it, man. You're going to have less people that are motivated to buy, less people that are motivated to sell, less people that are willing or able, right? So you got to go out there and adjust accordingly for that. Okay, so that's number one. So adjust for the transaction volume decline. Number two is adjust to whom the market is good for, right? So, okay, well, if you were in a seller's market and now you're in a buyer's market, okay, well, who's that market good for? Who's a buyer's market good for? I know declining markets, right? Better like my market, and I'll just, all I can do is speak off my market, but my market is far better for buyers than it has been in 3+ years. Okay, so like it's like, okay, we're focusing on buyers right now today. Not necessarily so much focus on sellers like maybe we have historically. Right now, we're more focused on buyers. It's the best time that we've seen for ups. Like declining markets are great for upsizers. So in 2020 and 2021, we were doing a ton of business with institutional investors. You had about, fucking 25% of all homes being bought nationwide were institutional investor bought or investor purchased. Phoenix was leading the country. We were above that data point, and we were leveraging that, man. We were doing a shit ton of business with these different institutional investors, a huge portion of our business. Well, they've all packed up shop and pieced out for the most part in my market. Okay, so like if I was attaching to that strategy, well, then I would be screwed today. Right. So we got to pivot and shift with this, right? So what worked, yesterday may not work today. So make sure that you are identifying whom the market is currently good for in your market, and then pivot and shift and adapt your marketing, your messaging, your strategy to whom the market is currently good for, right? And make sure that you're doing that. Okay. So number three, and I've got tons of podcast videos where I go deeper into that here on this channel as well. All right. So number three, watch your market closely. A lot of the things I share with you guys here are more nationwide stuff that's going on, what's going on, overall with the housing market, what's going on overall with the economy. Know your own markets. Like I know, okay, my inventory rate, my market, at least with, the niche that I'm in and the cities that I work and so forth, we're averaging 1.4 weeks of inventory increase month over month. We're averaging right now 2% month over month decline in home valuations. Right. So for the last 7 consecutive months, we average about 2%, and some months a little bit more, some months a little bit less, right. But that's just an average, So then with our median price point and I can do those calculations very quickly, which is important to be able to educate sellers, educate buyers on what this stuff looks like. Okay. We are increasing about a plus 10 days per month on list days on market. So like I'm watching my market. I know what is happening. I'm watching these trends, and so forth. So this is where I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And go through this with you. So this right here, this spreadsheet that I'm showing you right now, and I know a lot of you are listening to this. We get about 10 times the amount of you guys that listen to this versus watch this. So, YouTube is kind of our least most listen to or watch place for the podcast. So I'll do my best to describe this. So if you're driving down the road or hitting the gym right now or whatever, to explain this. So, this spreadsheet that you're seeing right here, this shows January 2005. I'm recording this video February 1st of 2023. Why did this go back to 05? Because that's when I got licensed, right? So I just started tracking this from the year I got licensed, and I've been tracking this month over month ever since. Now I don't need to track it. Now you could go back historically as back as your MLS lets you go and do something like this on a spreadsheet. But for me, like I was like, okay, I can access that data in my MLS. So I don't need, to have it on, I didn't want to go back and have to retro do it. That's the only reason why. However, though, I got 18 years times that by 12 months. That's, a lot of data on this. So what I do each month, right, is I come in here. First thing that I'm tracking here is inventory rate. So inventory rate, absorption rate, months of inventory all means the same thing. Right. So that's the biggest thing that I'm tracking, because real estate, just like all other businesses, just like all other products, and real estate is a product. Remember that, right? So it comes down to supply and demand. So I'm looking at the rate of change. Is this moving up? Is this moving down? And the rate of change, that's going to future pace what the market is going to do. Right. So, kind of a general rule of thumb, under 3 months of inventory is a seller's market, 3.1 to 4.9 months is a neutral market. 4.5 and beyond is a buyer's market. Now that's not perfect. It's not like a perfect scientific method. Yeah. Right. Depends on, if you're going into it or going out of it. and so forth. But those are just trends that I watch, like where's this going? Like, because okay, if we're in a seller's market, so we have under 3 months of inventory, and that's waning, it's getting less and less month over month. Well, that means that there are more buyers and there are homes for sale. It's going to drive up prices, right? Then you have equilibrium in markets, meaning that there's an equal amount of buyers, equal amount of sellers, or very close to, and that's where prices are going to be more stable, and historically like that 3 to 4% year-over-year appreciation. With healthy real estate markets, they typically outpace inflation by about 1 to 2%. Inflation historically is about 2%. So that's kind of your typical 3 to 4% year-over-year, appreciation. Right. Well, then we get beyond that 5 months. Okay, well, that means that there are more homes for sale. There's more inventory than there are buyers. That would be like if I had 10 water bottles and I had 5 buyers. Well, I only have 5 people that want the water bottles. Only 5 of them are going to get bought. So now we got to play the discount game to make it lucrative to buy which of the bottles, right? Versus when you have 5 water bottles and 10 buyers. Right. It's the same thing. So real estate's no different. Supply and demand. So this is the first thing that I'm tracking and what I'm paying attention to at the highest level, because this is kind of telling me what's going on long term with the real estate market. Then from there, I go in each month, how many new listings. Now, for me, when I'm doing this tracker, I do this based on the niche that I'm in. And when I mean with niche, this is a generalized niche, but like my focus is residential real estate. So this is in my MLS. This doesn't include commercial real estate. Like this is residential real estate, right? Because they can be 2 different beasts. So I focus on residential real estate, single family detached residential real estate. So that's kind of, I'm paying attention to those. All right, so I got number of new listings for that month, total number of sales for that month. Then I track average sold price for that month, median sold price for that month, average list price for that month, median list price for that month, average days on market, median days on market, total number of active listings, and then total number of pendings. Now, here's what I want to show you. So in each month, this takes me about 2 minutes. Just go into my MLS, run the data, run the reports, and then plug it in there. Now, back so our market, when it comes from an inventory standpoint, right, we had the lowest amount of inventory, which low inventory, the lag measure of that, and not a super lag measure, but several months after the fact usually, that's low inventory is going to equate to peak pricing, right? So whenever usually whenever you peak at low inventory, sometime in about several months, few months, 90 days, you're probably going to peak on pricing. So in May of 05, right? So if we look at the last housing bubble followed by the last housing crash before what we're in right now, that was 05 and then leading into the 08 crash, if you will. So we peaked at about 1.3 months of inventory, right? And then you can see here, for those of you that are there watching this, then the next month was 1.64 months, then 1.83 months, then 2 months, then 2.3 months, then 2.63 months, then 3.1 months, then 3.23 months, right? That's still in December. I'm sorry, that's still in 05. Now in 05, when that's peaked, and these were all things I was paying attention to at that time, people are telling me in my markets, all these agents are telling me, everybody, all the quote unquote experts are telling me, oh, dude, there's no way the market's going to crash. People have so much equity and blah, 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 all the reasons. I'm like, okay, whatever you say. Like, I don't know. At that point, I was a 23-year-old young punk kid. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was really doing, right? Luckily, I just had a great mentor that had me tracking my data, taught me this. I didn't realize that other people didn't do it at the time. But it taught me how to read markets, right? So I'm just seeing supply and demand. I'm just seeing these gradual increases and knowing that, okay, well, eventually the lag measure, the more this increases, the more that prices are going to, it's going to turn that corner, prices are going to come down and things are going to alter and change, right? And again, that might be, 3 months in your market, might be 6 months in your market before you start to see inventory growth impact, what overall prices are. But you can see here, then in 06, right, just continues going up. And 07 is it late 06, early 07 is when people started kind of giving that, oh shit, in our market. Right. Then in 08, when things just fell off of a cliff, Lehman Brothers collapse, Bear Stearns collapses, waves of foreclosures start hitting the marketplace. Now, the common thing that I heard from, realtors in my market that were struggling or had to get out of the market, drop out of the market was, nobody saw this coming. Nobody's like, and I'm like, how did you not see it coming? It was a 31-month slow progression buildup. For anybody that was paying attention, you could see this coming. Now, I'll be honest, like I didn't see I didn't know the crash was going to be that severe. I didn't know it was going to be the worst housing market crash, in history. I just know that, okay, like I could see that the market was going to be changing and it was going to be declining. I didn't, so like, just like I'm saying right now, with what we're seeing in the market, because what I'm seeing here with inventory rate inclines is, again, a lot of similarities. Now, yeah, we don't have subprime loans, like I said, and the, people will spit out all the shit of, the same, I heard the same things when equity. The one truth that can be debated right now is, okay, well, back then there was all these bullshit subprime loans and people that didn't, mortgages are done in a much stricter standpoint and have been since the last market crash. Okay, cool. I get that. But it's not like those loans still aren't being done. They're just done in the auto industry. They're done in other aspects of life. People are still doing them. Look at the amount, record high amounts of student loan debt, record high amounts of medical debt, record high amounts of auto loan debt, record high amounts of revolving credit card debt right now, right? So, okay, yeah, people might be okay in their homes, but all this other shit in life also impacts their home life, right? So, and again, I'm not saying that all of those show me that this market is going to crash and then be as bad or worse or whatever. There's a lot of people predicting that. There's a lot of people arguing it. I'm saying, I don't know. All I know is, from what I'm seeing right now, things aren't looking pretty, right? So I got it, but I'm just going to keep paying attention, because again, this might change. There's nothing blocking, manipulation in the financial markets from taking place again. Federal Reserve could pivot, turn course, drive down interest rates, drive down cost of capital, get investors to swoop back in again. Who knows? Like that's all shit that nobody. I don't have side conversations with Jerome Powell. I don't have, or Janet Yellen, or like, dude, like, it's like George Carlin said, you're, they're like, how does he put it? Something around like, there's a small group of people out there, in power, and you ain't in the club, right? So I'm not in the club, you're not in the club, right? But anyway, just make sure that you are paying attention to your market data. So I'm tracking that monthly. So I'm paying attention to what that looks like. And the cool thing is you can go historically back in your market and sit there and see what those trends were historically. Okay, well, when man, if this continues in about 6 months, we should be about 5 months of inventory. What was happening in my market last time we were at 5 months of inventory? You can go back and start seeing, how things repeat themselves. History repeats. If not, it doesn't fully repeat. It definitely sure as hell rhymes, right? So, we can go back and find those trends and prep for what's potentially coming, and position ourselves for, where the business is at right now, right? So adjusting number two, which was adjusting for, your ideal client, meaning who the market is good for, that allows you to adjust and pivot for the now business taking place. So 1 and 2 that I talked about, transaction volume decline and pivoting for who the market is good for, is adjusting for where the market is currently at, so you can go out there and do business now, right? But then watching your market like a hawk, right? Like I just talked about and walked you through with that spreadsheet, that allows you to not just know where the market is at now, but see trends of where it's going. Right. So if you start to see, okay, well, month over month, man, like, we're seeing, okay, 7 months straight, it's been average about 2% month over month in property declines. Okay. That's a trend, right? So, 1.4 weeks of inventory stacking month over month. That's a trend, right? So all of those things, right, I can start to then, if this continues, see where we're going with those different things. Right. So watch your market very closely. Also have an idea, okay, with layoffs taking place now, layoffs are happening in all sectors, but they've definitely been happening a lot in tech. Well, maybe you're in a market that doesn't have a lot of tech, so like San Francisco or my market that has a lot of tech, maybe our markets are getting hit harder than yours, because maybe there's a lot of manufacturing that hasn't been hit hard yet. But pay attention to, okay, well, like what's going on with our current job market in your area, and people start losing jobs. If layoffs kick up, that's going to be less people being able to afford to buy real estate, able to afford real estate, and so forth. So that's watching your market. Okay, so number 4 and the last tip here, as far as what to do to go out there and adapt and pivot during this. All right, so and there's a few things that I have on this. I kind of combined a few things in this. All right, so take massive action. We already talked about that earlier, but it's just one of those times, like, you gotta be prepared to put in the work, man. You want to be like, right now, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take massive action to survive. It's also going to take that much more massive action to go out there and thrive in this time. And we're hopefully all here to go out there and thrive and not just survive. But then here's the cool thing about taking massive action is, guys, at the end of this, there's going to be massive opportunities that come about of this. And you want to be in a position to take, not just survive these, this changing market, but be in a position to thrive, so then you could take advantage of those opportunities. All right. So then when it comes to also taking massive action, make sure you're taking massive action to treat your business as a business. This is a prediction of mine. I don't know if this will happen or not, but my guess is, kind of the wannabes in this industry are going to become obsolete, and not make it through these times. And we saw a lot of this happen before. Right. And typically just down markets, they don't make it. Meaning, like, they're not treating this as a business. They're not. So what does that mean? Treating your business as a business, right? Well, treating your business as a business means that you're dude, you're focusing on strategy, not just on the tactics, but you're focusing on the strategy at hand. Right. So you're taking the time to learn and grow and expand and have effective strategy. Strategy is effective plans. Right. Amateurs don't have plans, don't have business plans. I'm just going to show up. I'm going to work hard, but I don't have a business plan. They show up each and every single day. They don't know what winning that day looks like. Like, they don't have a plan for that day. They're just like, oh, I think I'm going to work. I'm going to work hard today. What do I do? Dude, if you're showing up and you're asking yourself that question, like, you've already lost that day, and you're probably already going to lose altogether, right? So having a strategic business plan in place, that what you're doing and what winning looks like on a yearly basis, a monthly basis, a weekly basis, and a daily basis, so if you are winning or losing. So you're operating with intention, right? You're tracking your data. You're tracking your numbers. You're paying attention to, okay, how many leads per lead source is it taking me? So, number of leads per lead source, also your cost of per lead if you're doing marketing, but then, okay, well then, based on those leads, well, how many reach outs, how many conversations, how many appointments set, how many appointment conductions, how many clients, equate to how many closings, what you're making on the average closing. So then you can report, what your cost per acquisition is, but then you also know and can identify what to scale up, what to scale back, where you're getting a return on your money, where you're getting a return on your energy. Tracking your data is the number one minimum commitment to show your commitment to your business. I mean, it's just it. And I don't mean to be a dick here, but I believe in, it's like I think a good mentor. Like, when I have a good mentor, I'm hiring. I'm not saying that you're hiring me as your mentor here. But I want a mentor that's willing to give me a hug and kick me in the ass in the same conversation. Right. That can give me, like, if I'm acting out of line or being a douche when it comes to my business, I want somebody that's going to smack me upside the fucking head and tell me, like, get your shit together. You need to do this. Right. Well, if you are not tracking your data in your business, that's the first sign. That just shows me you're not committed to your business, because it's impossible to make strategic, smart decisions when it comes to your business. It's impossible to go out there and know how to allocate your time, how to allocate your money, how to allocate your resources without track data. Like, it takes 2 minutes a day. It's the easiest damn thing. Right. But making sure that you're tracking your data. And then from there, be obsessed right now with dialing in your processes and systems, right? Because we talked about that adjustment for transaction volume. Well, if you got to adjust your transaction volume up by 40% to get the same result, well, if you, number one, have the right tracking in place, so you can know exactly what to scale up and what to cut out. Then if you have the right systems and processes in place, that's going to allow you to operate more effectively, efficiently, ensure things don't slip through the cracks. So then you can double down with your efforts without having to double down on your work hours. Right. But those great operators are going to be the ones that come out victorious, through this time frame. All right, so that's what I got for you today. Now, if you guys are interested, I know mentioned mentorship there a moment ago, so I'll do a little shameless plug here. If you're interested in hiring me as a coach and jumping into my mentorship coaching program, you can go to gsdmode.com, and on there you'll see coaching there. There's a link where you can schedule a zero pressure discovery call with me, where I can walk you through it. Now, just to give you a forewarning, I mean, this is the most effective and intense coaching program that exists in this business. Like, this is a coaching program where people come to learn how to build a business, learn how to scale. Like, yeah, we're going to cover lead gen, we're going to cover scripts, we're going to cover anything and everything from A to Z, from business planning, lead gen, lead follow-up, presentations, all that, all the kind of basic foundational stuff that you need to be a successful realtor, but then all the way through all the different elements of growth and scale. Right. From, making sure your tracking system set up, making sure all your system and processes are set up, to, making sure that you're hiring the right people at the right times, plugging this in and building a true business. This is a program for those that are truly looking to scale their business, right. That want a business, want to go out there and continue to grow and scale year after year, regardless of the marketplace, and build a true business. So it's not some fluff. We're not going to just sit there and talk about motivation all day. We're not just going to sit there and talk about, my style isn't to, call these 1,000 people every single day with these scripts and create a job for the rest of your life. That's not my style. My style is how to go out there and build a business that you can make the money that you want to make, that you can continue to grow and expand. And hopefully, if you do it right, then you get to the point where you can have a life too, right? You can start to exit yourself from production. You can start to exit yourself from the stuff. So if you're interested in that, again, gsdmode.com, the coaching area, it says coaching. You can schedule a zero pressure discovery call. Those are with me personally, right? So you're not going to be speaking to anyone else. You're going to speak into me. We're going to talk about your business and of course, talking about the coaching program, but going through, how it can help you see if you're a fit, for it. And if I'm a fit for you. And again, zero pressure. I don't try to hard push anybody jumping in there. So anyway, enough of a shameless plug there. Truly appreciate you guys. Keep crushing it, keep kicking ass. And I will see you next time. Peace.